Peace to the saints. We are here with some breaking news that'll give us fascinating insights. It is the news about the drug lord El Mencho being assassinated in Mexico and the ensuing violence that has occurred. So many lessons. And I think this is particularly interesting because it reminds you that the government itself is no more than a mafia, a cartel. And so you have cartel versus cartel, essentially struggling for power. And, just today, we're here in Asia for the drip trip. We were out 30 men boxing, and then the police show up and tell us, oh, you can't do that. Why? They're just trying to establish dominance. The Vietnamese are around watching, filming, clapping, but the police want to establish dominance because there's, 30 men really getting it in, showing too much power. Often we have to ask ourselves, okay, you kill one man in a criminal organization. Is the organization going to fall? Is demand for narcotics going to be suddenly reduced? I would charge that that is not the case. And what I would like to put forward is that there'll be someone else taking his place. But more importantly, the government is filled with liars, scammers, deceivers, power-hungry, greedy people because they never discuss the most important thing, which is demand. You have to stop demand. So is the United States government saying, hey, let's put together some programs to teach the youth that they don't need poisons? No, they're not. In fact, Donald Trump has changed marijuana into, I think it was a Schedule 3 drug. I forget the categorizations, but basically saying that it's not addictive and harmful. And all of the research indicates that it is, especially for children. Our government, they are drug dealers. I guess they don't like the cartel because they're not cut in on the profits. But anyways, let's go ahead and look at this news. As we go through, if you have any comments, questions, or you'd like to support the work, as we say within this culture, pay what you owe, make your name known. You can use the information at the bottom of the screen or in the description of the video to support. And I thank all of you who are watching with me here on twitch.tv/MarquetteDevon. Here we go.
If the killing of one of Mexico's most powerful drug lords was a show of strength and purpose by the government, so the response has been a show of force by the cartels. Across the country, roads have been blocked, cars and buses torched, banks and shops set on fire by powerful criminal gangs intent on...
I don't even know if you should be calling them gangs. They seem to be very, very well organized. Maybe we just call them local government. Who knows? But what I would like you all to know is that I don't look at this as a criminal organization versus a legitimate moral organization. I look at this as a smaller criminal organization versus a larger criminal organization fighting for power. That's what I see this as. And that is, in fact, what it is, beyond the propaganda that has been pushed forward by the government. Ironic, I grew up with Mexicans, lots of them, and I never met a Mexican named Shinebaum. I never met a Mexican named Shinebaum. Curious. Out of all the Mexicans I grew up with, never met one named Shinebaum. Anyways, shout out to the president of Mexico. But one thing I want you all to know, and I highly respect from the cartels, and this is true of the government too, it's true of any mafia-like organization, is you harm one of theirs, there's going to be hell to pay. And the same thing is true with assassin. If you harm one of ours, if you make threats to one of ours, just know that we will all descend upon you. There are no fair fights. I don't care if we're out in the world and there's a saint and someone wants a fair fight with him and the guy's smaller and I know the saint's going to win. It's still not going to be fair. I'm jumping in. And that's how we're moving. And we want you to know, even if you lost the fight to one of us, we're still going to get back at you on the back end. Yes, indeed. There will be no mercy. You should be scared. That's how we moving out here. And shout out to the cartel because they're doing the exact same thing. They're letting the government know and the population know that if you try to stop us, there will be consequences. And, if you take one of us out, we're going to make sure that we take a pound of flesh from you, which is to say to make it not worth it. Now, the irony in Mexico, I don't know if it's really worth it. I mean, is it? Are you about to, destroy the Sinaloa and all these other cartels, or are they going to replace each other, or are some of them going to monopolize? especially when you have underdeveloped economies and people who are low skill in an AI economy. This is a cash crop for them. So you have government people who are making these moves which are not practical and not reasonable. They're not looking at the long term of what happens. Just like some people are soybean farmers, some people are cocaína producers, you dig? And there's a whole supply chain of people who earn very well from that. And then in the United States, there's a whole group of customers who have various forms of emotional instability, chemical imbalances in the brain, poor parenting and trauma, and they need some medicine. And apparently the pharmacy ain't getting the job done. So these illegal drugs will do. And the government is not helping the culture and they're not guiding the people. So this will continue. So this was almost a waste of time. It was foolish, frankly, because they're not addressing the core issues. And the governments will never seek to address the core issues because they don't love the people. You have to really love the people to do the hardest work.
Demonstrating their reach and deterring further action against them.
Look, now we're scared. We only go out when it's necessary. It's good that they're finishing with all these organizations. But there's fear because of what's happening. We don't know how to react or what to do.
One of the cities targeted, Puerto Vallarta on the Pacific coast, a hub for U.S. and domestic tourism, shrouded.
And that's very strategic on the part of the cartel to hit the tourist industry. So there are going to be reverberations that are going to hurt Mexico in the short term, no doubt, potentially in the long term, because you wage this kind of a strike. But what does it add up to? A declining tourist industry, lack of safety for everyday people. What does it add up to? Loss of jobs for people who are involved in the illicit drug trade. What does it add up to that benefits Mexico? Nothing that I can count. Come on now, let's pay attention out here. May I acknowledge via Venmo, shout out to Jalen, the first person to support the work. I appreciate you. Carrying on.
In thick smoke from numerous fires. Puerto Vallarta is in Jalisco state, home to the drug boss known as El Mencho. Much of the violence has happened here, in cities like Guadalajara, but it's spread far beyond, to neighboring Guanajuato state, to Acapulco, the state of Oaxaca, to the tip of the Yucatan Peninsula and the resort city of Cancun. The epicenter, though, was Tapalpa and an army operation there on Sunday morning. Mexico's government said it was aided by U.S. intelligence in moving against.
You see, it's pretty interesting when you're being run by a government that's run by another government. So Mexico is taking orders from the United States, and the United States is taking orders from, I can't say it. We're not in a free country, you know. They say that you have freedom of speech. Lies, lies, darling. Lies, I tell you.
El Mencho, or Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, longtime head of the Jalisco New Generation.
It's crazy when Brody is the most wanted man in Mexico in terms of the drug trading. You don't even have a clear photo of a little buddy. That's kind of suspicious. Look like they took this photo in like 1984. Like on a goddamn, one of those cameras that you wind it up. This is a terrible photo. Extraordinary.
Cartel, subject of a $15 million reward from the U.S. government, responsible for trafficking cocaine, fentanyl, and other substances across the border. Authorities say he was injured in the raid and died en route to Mexico City. The Jalisco state governor urging people to stay home.
It's urging people to stay home, which is basically saying we have the technology and power to execute one of the leaders of the cartel. However, we don't have the technology and power to keep you safe. So if our true goal is to keep the people safe and protected, we fail. I mean, what are the citizens getting from any of these governments? Increasingly, I feel like I get closer to being an anarchist. I certainly believe in hierarchy and that there should be organization, but I think more so it matters what you want to opt into. Being born within a territory, you're like kind of forced into citizenship. At some level, you're a captive, really, when you think about it. Captive of the imbeciles who are trying to control you. Shout out to Mr. Gene, came in supporting the work, writes tuition for this work. May I also acknowledge Michael, writes Peace of the Saints tuition. I appreciate you. Shout out to the 3 folks who have supported this work, and shout out to all of you who are members watching.
objetivo principal durante esta jornada.
Wait, who is bro again? Oh, the governor of Jalisco. They say that's where the beautiful women are in Mexico. I think that's just where the more European-looking ones are. You know, obviously we all have that. Not we all, but many of us have that that colonial mindset.
Our main objective from early today has been to assure the safety of the people.
If that was your main objective, why did you rock the boat? Why'd you rock the boat? Now you're telling people to stay home. So was that your main objective? I don't believe a thing politicians say.
Therefore, from this security meeting, which is in permanent session, we have activated the Code Red, which remains in effect.
Yeah, bro, it's definitely a code red. Code Rojo! Anyway, shout out to Sergio Terron, supporting the work from Mexico. Shout out to all the saints in Mexico. Shout out to the saints in Assassin Raza. Shout out to the saints in Latin America. Yiddig! Carrying on.
El Código Rojo.
Mexico's been under increasing U.S. pressure to act against the cartels.
Ah, I see. So they're pushing you to do things that don't even benefit the U.S., but certainly benefit the United States government in terms of their talking points, but not the citizens. I mean, let's be real here. Because I can assure you, if you brought a pure brick of cocaine, and you set that brick of cocaine in the center of this resort that the saints are at, no one would use it. It would sit there forever and wither away. So the problem is not drugs. The problem is that people want to use drugs. So the question is, can you change that? And that, my friends, I'm afraid is a little harder to do. That's why the core of my work is around culture. It's around family. It's around parenting. 3 Cents Bible, be yourself, be good to yourself, be good to good people. Number 1, be yourself. Know who you are. Know the value of yourself. Be good to yourself. Treat yourself well. It is not to treat yourself well to harm yourself with narcotics. But the government doesn't teach you anything about that, right? They tell you now marijuana's okay. And everyone tells you, oh, you need to get into therapy, which translates to what? Pharmaceuticals. Let's be real.
Which had become ever more militarized, controlling territory as well as running criminal activity.
We are going to start now hitting land with regard to the cartels. The cartels are running Mexico. It's very, very sad to watch and see what's happened to that country.
Well, that's funny because the Epstein crew is running America. So what we talking about? You hear me? I'd much rather people be getting a brick of cocaine. I'd rather people be getting a brick off than getting, their rocks off with a minor. So yeah, they're being run by cartels, plus the Scheinbaum, and we know what group she's a part of. And America's being run by Epstein Island. So what are we talking about? Shut up.
But the cartels are running and they're killing 250, 300,000 people in our country every single.
Are the cartels killing people in America, or is bad parenting killing people in America? Is obesity killing people in America? Come on now. No, they're not killing people in America. Our culture is taking us out.
Single year.
After last year's U.S. campaign against alleged Venezuelan drug boats, such...
And also, I want you guys to notice human nature. Blame others. Blame others. It's not the Americans. It's the Mexicans. It's the Mexicans. They're the immigrant problem. They're the drug problem. It's the Mexicans. And we're not blaming the Mexicans. God damn it, it's the blacks. It's the blacks. They commit all the crimes, the blacks.
A threat to bomb the sovereign territory of, among other things, this summer's World Cup co-host nation has always been resisted by Mexico's president, Claudia Sheinbaum. Sunday's operation may well relieve some of that pressure.
That doesn't sound Mexican.
I congratulate Mexico because the Trump administration is constantly threatening Mexico, claiming it wants to send...
How are you going to be the leader of Mexico and you're a woman? Number 1, I thought y'all had some machismo. Where is it? We need to revive it. And secondly, how are you going to be the leader of Mexico when your ass don't know how to make tostadas? Your ass, you ain't got an uncle or tío somewhere that could cook up some carne asada. How your ass is the Mexican president when your grandma don't know how to make mole? What are we talking about here? This is ridiculous. Brody says, yo, are we live? Nah, we dead, nigga. Carrying on.
Troops attack the cartels and that Mexico isn't doing enough. This sends a powerful message to the Trump administration that Mexico is fighting.
Broden came on in a Versace t-shirt. Nah, you're fired. I don't want to hear shit this boy got to say. You are not a legitimate person. And this is Claudia Sheinbaum. La secretaria de la Defensa Nacional reportó operativo llevado a cabo esta mañana por fuerzas federales que derivó en you need to just go ahead and write this in Hebrew, right? Shouldn't she just go ahead and write that in Hebrew? Let's be real here. Let's be real here.
Coordinating with state administrations, and that in most of the country there was
Is this a tweet? How are tweets this long? I thought tweets were short.
Complete normality.
Son momentos bastante complicados.
But Guadalajara's airport, just one place where normality was not prevailing. Passengers scrambling to upper levels, worried about fires spreading below.
Nice. I don't know if that makes sense. If there's a fire, there's a fire and they're fleeing to the upper level. Like low key, I want to flee to the lower level so I could get out of there. You know, I want to get out of there. That's just me though.
City's streets all but empty as people heeded instructions to shelter in place.
That's crazy, because I'd have been walking around outside like, where the corn man at? Where the corn man? Damn, where the hell is the corn man at? These niggas ain't scared the corn man. Yeah, nah, that'd have got me big mad.
They did into the night in Leon, the capital of
Beautiful, beautiful. At least this monument is beautiful to the left and the right. They need to revitalize.
Guanajuato state. After a day of frightening disorder and violence, Mexicans left wondering what comes next.
Well, joining us now is Dr. Annette Idler, who's head of the Global Security Program at the University of Oxford. Thanks very much for
to just show that they can still paralyze daily life. The key question, I think,
Cállate.
Feared drug lords known as El Mencho caught and killed in a dawn raid. He was killed in an operation in the town of Telpapa. The U.S. had previously issued a $15 million reward for the
I want to know how that, if the Mexican military took him out, do they still get the 15? I'm curious. Do they still get the 15?
capture of the co-founder and leader of the cartel began burning dozens of cars and trucks in the state and a neighboring state as the army moved in, possibly to try to out from Mexico. Good to have you with us.
Bro got in one AirPod. It's like, damn, bro, you're talking on the BBC, my Neil, and you can't get proper audio set up. I mean, I'm not asking you to go to the barber and get you lined up. I mean, that would be, that would be reasonable, but, come on, man, you're using an AirPod. Knock it off.
He was crucial, Nami. I mean,
shut up, bro. Put a tie on.
We often talk in Mexico about kingpins and drug lords.
We often talk in Mexico. This nigga name is Will Grant. Will Grant. Well, we often talk in Mexico about drug lords and cocaine.
And so on. This was one of the very, very biggest. In this particular moment in time, the most wanted man in Mexico, by some distance, I would say. The feared leader of the Jalisco New Generation cartels, and tons, scores who really...
Now that's interesting. Who feared him? Was it the government feared him? Was it other drug dealers feared him? I'm curious. The only reason I ask that is because in Baltimore, the saying is that you'll be fine if you're not using or selling drugs. So who feared him? Who was he causing problems to? Really?
Underpins the criminal underworld in this nation. Of course, it's a major victory on some level for the authorities here, for the military who.
I'll go ahead and take a pause for the goss. If you guys are like, hey, I'm good, then we'll go ahead and cut it here. If you guys are like, tell me more, darling, tell me more. You're the most fascinating bald brother I've ever seen. Shout out to Jason. It comes in by Super Chat. He writes, Trump made fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction. The Mexican government had to sacrifice that man to prevent U.S. military invasion. I think it would be a really bad PR look to invade Mexico. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't even think Trump would do that. So I think they had far more latitude. So I don't know if I'm signing off on that one. But it is a reasonable line of argument that folks have made. I'll go ahead and take a pause for the cause. If you guys are good, then I'm good. Yeah, folks, I'm pretty sure you guys can still hear me. We're here in the Drip Trip, our annual trip to Asia 2026. It's been such a relaxing, inspiring experience. Myself, I've gained so much from it. I know the men have as well. I came into the drip trip not in the best physical shape, not what is typical for myself, and largely due to, as you guys know, I'd spoken on some political topics about 8 months ago. And as a direct result of what I said about those political topics, I lost a very significant portion of income, not only money that was coming in, but also businesses that I was connected to that were poorly affected by this. And I became imbalanced. So I always talk to you guys about health, wealth, relationships. And I got imbalanced working on wealth, and my health was not at peak. I wasn't in bad shape. I just wasn't in good shape, which is less than what a saint would have. And I came here being around these guys who are ambitious and like to take things to the next level. And, every single day, all we've done is, have good conversation, relax, get massages, box, go for runs, jump rope, make custom shoes, make custom clothes, go out for dinner, spit game. It's just been such a relaxing, rejuvenating, enriching experience and tradition. This is our 3rd year that we've done this. Every time we show up to the tailor, the cobbler, they're happy to see us and welcome us with open arms. And it's just really a remarkable thing that we've established here in Asia. We've got a lot of guys who have been to the trip 3 years in a row, some guys 2 years in a row, a couple guys who are brand new. And, it's just such one of those experiences you remember for life, and one of those things that you put on your calendar every year to make it if you can. And it inspires you to work harder so that you can enjoy things like this. You always got to have inspiration in your life. Gentleman said Trump would do that. Since the Maduro raid, he thinks he could do anything. Yeah, that's curious, because Maduro was never viewed as an ally to the United States. We've done business there. They're also not bordering the United States. And because Mexico is viewed as not only an ally, but also a trade partner, I think that there would be not enough political will to do that. And certainly we have Venezuelans in America. We also have an enormous population of Mexicans in the United States. And Latinos in general, one thing I really respect about Latinos is that they are quite revolutionary people. They're traditional people. They have strong families, a lot of slurs, if we're talking about general Latin America broadly, a lot of slurs, but they're still family-oriented people. They're revolutionary people in many ways. They're socialist-minded. Their families talk about politics, and very much so that Che Guevara, that Fidel Castro, that is in the public consciousness of La Raza. And I think that America, if they were to create a direct military conflict or invasion of Mexico, there would be a lot of folks who would be radicalized, who are in the United States and would pose a great threat domestically, and people who have been in America generations but are proud Hispanohablantes and would really already be embedded in critical aspects and critical functions of American government. So I think that would not go well. I highly doubt that Trump would ever make that move. That would be an astounding move, and an astoundingly bad move, in fact. And this is not to suggest that Mexico can defend itself. It can't. Shout out to Melvin supporting the work. Came in via Venmo, writes tuition, may also acknowledge via PayPal. Wayne writes, peace of saints tuition, appreciate you. Came in twice, writes, please carry on, sir. I'm here for the real news. You dig? You barely get that, right? Shout out to Michael supporting the work, writes, live. Yes, indeed. Carrying on.
Killed him in a raid, injured him initially, and then he died en route to Mexico City. But of course, we're seeing the unfolding violence that goes with that, as his organization is extremely powerful and very, very well armed.
Now, National Guard.
And that's funny, because they say that they're very well armed, but no one ever wants to talk about how they became armed. How does a drug organization become armed enough to be competitive with the government or the state? That should be quite hard to do, right? In fact, in Mexico and in many places that are developing, you have people who are a part of the government, police and military, who are also a part of the drug cartel. or their double agents, so to speak. But I have the utmost respect for a man who ran an organization, and the enemy took him out, and now the organization is saying, nah, we ain't gonna let that slide. Go off. So often you'll find among people with no integrity is that something happens to one of their people, and they're like, they choose peace. Nah, I want you to choose the opposite of peace. There shall be no peace. And in fact, I think it's really wise when you think about it, because if someone takes one of yours and you let it go, why wouldn't they take another one of yours? So what you really should let that be an impetus to eradicate the enemy. So the smart side of this affair, the smart mafia, which will either be the Mexican government, the Mexican, American, Israeli government versus the cartels, the smarter side should be playing for a war of total annihilation.
Have been deployed outside the attorney's office after that killing. We just showing some live pictures there in Mexico City of the National Guard outside the office. And Will, just give us a sense of what happens when leaders
that doesn't look safe.
Are taken out. This sort of kingpin strategy, does it work? Is it something?
No, ma'am, it does not work.
That what happens as a result of it?
It can have an impact. I mean, somebody like El Mencho, these organizations can be quite top-heavy in the sense that it is Guadalajara, the state capital, important cultural center in Mexico. And going to be a host city of the FIFA World Cup this summer. They include Puerto Vallarta.
You know what? If I was, if El Mencho was my big homie, I'd be like, oh, you got the World Cup? No, you don't. Yeah, no, you don't. If you put on that World Cup if you want to, that ain't gonna go well. I would make sure that I create the most destruction possible in that World Cup, and preferably get the foreigners to embarrass the government and to show that Mexico's not safe, and to dive the economy and destroy the tourist industry, and at some level the service industry. But my industry, illegal drug sales, are going to keep going because it's an addiction business, which means one of the greatest businesses. So I think it'd be wise on the part of the drug cartels to target the FIFA, and eventually the people of Mexico will say, hey, just leave these people alone. Leave these people alone. You can't beat them. And you know what? Truth be told, you cannot beat a drug cartel with violence. You don't beat them that way. You beat the drug cartel by developing the economy, by reducing demand. That's how you beat the drug cartel. I don't think anyone wants to be in an illegal business, especially if you're not at the top. You just want a good income. So there's that piece, and then there's also the cultural piece and the schooling piece, and also how effective is the state at projecting power and influence. And when I say that, I mean, if you live in a neighborhood, like for example, my neighborhood, we had the utmost respect for the local hustlers, because when you couldn't make ends meet, they could fill in the gaps for you. And they were ever present. Whereas the state or the government, as represented by the police, were rarely present, especially for the helpful matters. But when they were present, they were there arresting your uncle, taking your mom away, causing havoc and chaos. And so you have to capture the hearts and minds. Now, here's the comedy. A government is charged with serving the people, so you'd think they'd already have the hearts and minds. But what government has devolved to is a group of people who are leeching off of you and I. And that's why you can't say who the bad guy and the good guy is. I can't say that El Mencho's the bad guy. I can't say that Scheinbaum is the good guy. I just say that they're two criminal organizations fighting each other. Come on now. Ladies and saints, it's been a pleasure at this time to fellowship with you all. Let us end this with our tradition, the Creed of the Assassin. Repeat after me with full conviction, knowing this is true of you. The Creed of the Assassin. I am going to be who I truly am, because I am remarkable, and I'm going to strive every moment to show the greatest part of who I am. Until next time, peace of the saints.